So I'm in California, so I have to forgive the poor quality of video. But I was reading Nilay Patel's, who is the editor-in-chief of Verge's response to the copyright strikes that the Verge issued on some YouTube channels. And there's a couple interesting things that I think his response reveals just from working in the media. So one, I agree with the actions he took. Like, I think he was right to retract the copyright strikes. But it's interesting, the first thing he says is that the entire situation could have been avoided if the YouTubers had just reached out to him directly. However, I think you could equally argue the entire thing could have been avoided if the Verge had just reached out to those YouTubers directly instead of having their lawyers issue, copyright takedown notices on the YouTube channels. But I don't actually think it was Nilay Patel who had anything to do with this. In fact, I bet you Nilay Patel wasn't even aware that the copyright takedown notices had been issued until he saw something on Twitter or saw a bunch of angry emails about it. My guess is generally what happens in any digital media company is that a producer or a writer or a curator will notice that a media company's piece of content has been used or seen in another video or that has been reacted to, and then that'll be brought to the attention of like a senior producer or a supervising producer, or say like, oh, well, I send this to legal, just at legal, at legal at the Verge or legal at the Vox is usually the email address that everything gets routed to. And so some social curator or video producer said, like, hey, my senior producer said I should bring this to your attention. And they just sent over the links to the legal team at The Verge. And the legal team, being lawyers, thought like, oh, this, we're trying to protect our IP, and therefore we're going to issue takedown notices, which they did, citing, it's not fair use or it's not transformative, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But most lawyers aren't that up to date on modern fair use cases, especially, what is copyright protected, what is intellectual property in YouTube particularly. I think if you take a look at the Ethan and Ela Klein versus Matt Haas lawsuit, which ruled heavily in favor of fair use on YouTube, the videos that they issued copyright takedown notices on would have fallen under fair use. I know, in Nilay Patel's letter, he says, while he agrees with his legal team's definition that they weren't fair use, I looked at the videos myself, and they were clearly reaction videos. And I think any lawyer, based on the precedent that H3H3 set, would have seen these videos as equally fair use. I think The Verge would have lost that lawsuit. Nonetheless, fair use is still a nebulous term and isn't decided by anybody's legal team. It doesn't matter really whether Nilay Patel feels it's fair use or not, or whether The Verge's lawyers feel like it's fair use or not, or whether the YouTubers, like Lyle, feels it's fair use or not. That's ultimately up to a judge. That's basically how we operate in fair use in 2019. The second point that was interesting to me is that Nilay Patel said, I agreed with my lawyer's arguments that they weren't fair use and that one video was even slightly racist. It is interesting because it shouldn't matter, whether the video is racist or not racist, right? If you're arguing from a legal standpoint that this falls not under fair use and therefore should be a copyright takedown. You can't argue somebody's character, I did something, I did a legal action against somebody because I didn't like their character. So when you said to the judge, well, I took the guy's money because I didn't like his character. I thought he was a racist. That doesn't matter. The question is like, well, why did you take that person's money, right? Which is ultimately what you're doing when you're issuing a copyright takedown notice. So I don't understand the point of issuing the statement like, I thought this video was racist, when it has nothing to do with the actual matter at hand. So then you might wonder, like, well, why did The Verge release the claims? Well, I think it was ultimately because Nilay Patel is not a fool, and he realizes that's a PR battle The Verge won't win, especially if they want to exist on the YouTube community where copyright and fair use and takedown notices are taken so seriously. It would just be a massive PR fire for them. And that Nilay Patel, recognizing this immediately as soon as it was brought to attention that The Verge had copyright striked some YouTube channels, said, oh no, we shouldn't do that, that's just not worth the PR fire that it is, and immediately retracted the claims. And I think that was the right thing to do. I just think his note about the situation was poorly written, and came from a place of self-defense rather than thoughtfulness. Anyway, that's just my opinion on it. I could reach out to The Verge and Vox. I know the general manager there, but I kind of feel like it's poor sportsmanship to go try to get a comment on record when, when I'm just trying to comment about the media itself and not trying to, dig too deeply into this and just offer insight into why I think, The Verge did what it did, how the situation occurred, and why Nilay Patel reacted the way he did. Anyway, that's just a thought for you guys this morning. If you want to watch another video, click around. Thanks.